Hello there, people of the internet. I hear some sort of vehicle out on the road in that direction, and boy oh boy, it sure sounds like they have one hell of a misfire going on. So, I have received this, I've made a couple of videos on this particular topic before, but I still continue to get questions about this, and I still continue to get people who are curious about certain things and whatnot. So I figure I'm going to go ahead and make, another video talking about this, and that is, firearms for home defense. And what would probably be the best firearms for somebody to pick for a home defense situation. There's a couple of factors to pick in. One, your laws. In this case, here in the state of Florida, Florida isn't a restrictive state, and it doesn't have a whole lot in lay of what you, the law-abiding citizen, can use to protect yourself against a criminal who is looking to do you harm. So, whenever it comes to home defense, Florida definitely gives you the thumbs up of, hey, you go ahead and you protect yourself against the people who are looking to hurt you. So without the idea of having to restrict yourself due to certain legal implications, I have quite the array of different things that I could pick from. So I'm going to talk about my personal home defense situation and things that I would go to and my choices, my rationale, and things like that. However, that being said, my choices are going to be different than your choices because you're probably going to be living in a different area than I am in. In my case, where I'm at, I have these huge open fields, and guess what? If somebody starts shooting at me, they're probably going to be about 600 plus yards away, which is about where that tree line over there is. So that's quite the distance. So maybe in my particular case, having something like a PCC, and this is a 9mm high point, maybe something having like something like having a PCC for my home defense firearm is probably not going to be a very good idea, because this at, the 600 yards or so that I would be being shot at, probably not going to be the most effective thing. However, if I get myself something like an AR with an LPVO, well, guess what? Now I am very capable at making the shots back at the, threat that is currently popping off shots at me. I don't know. I mean, this is just like worst case scenario. More likely than not, if I had to deal with something, it would be somebody who is up on my house and not somebody who is, quite, half a kilometer away popping off shots at me, but it is still possible. So I would like to have the ability to be able to not only handle things that are, right at my house, but also be able to handle things that are quite at a far distance. Now, you guys know that I am a military surplus collector. I collect all sorts of old school rifles, and I got all sorts of really cool stuff. And something like this would absolutely be capable at the distances that we're talking about. However, something like this would not exactly be ideal if I was dealing with something up close and personal. So my own personal preference, I went with an AR in 223-556, and for my defensive cartridges, I got 77 grain projectiles. They are fantastic at taking care of a vast variety of different things. So one of the main reasons why I went with my AR platform, I'm not going to tell you guys what I actually have because I have my own personal arsenal. I got my YouTube arsenal, and then I got my stuff that nobody needs to know that I have. But one of the main reasons why I went with the AR platform is because not only do I use firearms for like defensive purposes, way more often than not, I will use them for actual practicality purposes. Like, for example, the other day I had a water moccasin in my pond that I have here on my property. And guess what? What's the best way to take that thing out? Go grab yourself some sort of firearm and hit that thing in the head. And then I had grilled snake for dinner, and it was awesome. But, I mean, that's the case of me using a firearm for practicality purposes that didn't necessarily have to do with defending myself. Or, hell, there's been plenty of times where we'd have coyotes run across these fields trying to get to our various little creatures like chickens or cats or rabbits or the things that we keep around here. So, guess what? A 223 would do great at dispatching one of these coyotes. Maybe a 308 would be a little bit of overkill, especially because I like taking the pelts of the coyotes that I take, and I'll actually do things with the meat and whatnot, and having them just completely get obliterated would probably not be the greatest of option. Not only that, but it's more than just coyotes I go after. I mean, raccoons, possums, just armadillo, the things that get around here and tear things up. I know we got a huge issue with a lot of the wild birds around here will come through and destroy a lot of our crops. And we got, I'm not talking about Kevin whenever I say wild birds. I hear Kevin scream whenever I bring that up. We got a bunch of birds around here that we have issues with, and we got like groundhogs and moles and all sorts of stuff around here that we just have to go ahead and take care of. 223556 would very much be a good universal tool to not only be able to do all of the homesteading things that we have to do, but it's also a very adequate round to be able to defend myself with, especially out at the distances that we might possibly be looking at if something were to go down. I could, use that close up and personal if somebody's at the house, or I could use that at dramatic distances if somebody is across my field. It is a good universal idea, and well, one of the things I really like about the AR platform is that I can swap over to different kinds of calibers if I feel like it. Right now, in my ARs, I've only got 223, 556, but if I wanted to be able to hit out at farther distances, maybe I would swap over to a 6.5 Grendel or something like that. Or if I want something with more power behind it, I would swap over to a 300 Blackout. I mean, those are some of the easier caliber conversion changes to make with your AR systems. So, I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't at least keep that in mind as a consideration. So in my particular case, I use an AR to defend my everything, simply because that is what I have deemed to be the best choice, because not only is it used for those defensive purposes, but it's just a good universal tool for absolutely everything. Now, if you are living in the Midwest, I mean, now we're going to talk about things to take into consideration for you guys. If you're living in the Midwest, then maybe a full power rifle would be best for you, because somebody might be popping shots at you from 2,500 meters away, or 25 meters away, I don't know. Or if you're in apartments, then a PCC might be good for you, high point, or not high point, hollow point 9mm, so you don't have to risk a whole lot of over penetration or something like that. Or, if they get stuck inside of your target, then guess what, you don't have to worry about any over penetration. Or if you are in, I don't know, a area where you have a lot of people doing drugs, and you might have somebody coming at you who is very, he needs to be stopped right now, otherwise things are going to get really, really bad. Maybe having something like a 38 Special revolver would not be the best option. And to stop an immediate threat, maybe something like a 12-gauge shotgun, which is very, very good at immediately stopping someone from doing what they're doing with the amount of energy transfer on a target. If you're using something like buckshot or something like that, just think about your particular situation and what it is that you think would be best for your needs. Are you concerned about overpenetration? Are you concerned about, having to hit things at long range? Are you concerned about, insert your case of situation here? Now, one of the absolute best universal options for a defensive firearm, if, man, Kevin is just screaming up a storm today. One of the absolute best choices for a defensive firearm, if you're looking just for a firearm for defensive purposes, then you're not living like me and, you have a dozen other things that you're going to be using that firearm for, is if you go out and get yourself some sort of handgun. Doesn't have to be this. I just so happen to have this 1911 out here. You can have 45, 40, 9mm, 32, 22. I don't care what it is that you decide to use. Just make sure that you can use it effectively. Put rounds on the target, that you know how to use it, that it's reliable, and I mean, that's all that anyone could ever ask for, especially if you yourself are providing the ammunition. If you can shoot something like a 45 or something like that, a lot of people will argue that 9mm is cheaper. If you're not going to go out and shoot a lot like I do, I mean, I'm out here shooting all the time. I put up YouTube videos almost every day of me sending lead downrange. So, of course, a cheaper option would be the best way to go. But if you're not going to be out there shooting regularly, of course, I recommend that you get training in with your handgun. But if you're not going to be just launching lead downrange, mag dumping into garbage like I do, then maybe you can afford the extra 5 or 10 cents a round for 45 to get dramatically better amount of energy onto the target in comparison to 9mm. Of course, there are benefits for 9mm as well. You get, lighter weight ammunition, more capacity, things like that. This isn't a 45 versus 9mm video. Whatever it is that you want to go with, you go ahead and you choose that. But some of the pros about carrying or about having a handgun for defensive purposes is, especially if you get good at it, especially if you have yourself something that is single action and the trigger pull is very nice and crisp and the handgun is particularly accurate, you can make shots out with this thing out to 100 yards. Most of your defensive counters are going to be within like 7, I think, statistically speaking. So that 100-yard capability won't necessarily be necessary. But it is nice to be able to hit things out at those long distances, especially if you're rocking something that doesn't have a long, hard trigger pull. But not only could you be effective with it out, way, way, way beyond what most encounters would be taking place at, but these are also concealable. You could carry this on your person without raising eyebrows. If you have to go out in public, doesn't necessarily have to be just for home defense, but if you want one thing to rule them all, I mean, unless you're a hermit and you never leave your home, then you're going to be out in some other areas. So having something to be able to keep yourself safe wherever it is that you're at, whether you're at home or in public, being able to conceal it, probably a very, very good idea. If you insist on open carry, I mean, look at your laws, look at your states, look at your local areas, see if it's something that you would even want to do. Then, I mean, open carry is a topic for another time. If you want to open carry, then you go ahead and you open carry. But if you are looking to conceal carry, then you can have yourself a handgun on person. Now, if you have some sort of situation going down at your house and you don't know if it's a threat or not, but it might possibly be a threat, but it also might not be a threat, then maybe having something concealed on your body like a handgun would be a good way to go. Like, let's say it's late at night, you hear a loud bang on your door. Oh my God, I'm not expecting anyone. Let me grab my, well, in this case, we'll go ahead and use this. Let me grab my 12-gauge shotgun and open this door because this is what I've decided to, use as my defensive firearm. And oh God, it's just the pizza man. Now I've got issues for brandishing a firearm because my daughter ordered pizza late at night and didn't tell me that she was going to have some pizzas. So I'm like, oh boy, hello there, courtroom. How are you doing today? So yeah, that probably would not be a very good idea. Whereas if you have something like a handgun, you keep that on your person, open the door. If you decide to open the door, figure out who's on the other side before you actually get around to opening that door. But that has a bunch of implications as well. If you do open that door and it turns out to not be a threat, then hey, guess what? Now you are in some trouble for having a firearm whenever you're not supposed to have one for this non-existent threat. Or if something goes down and, I don't know, maybe it's the police and they're telling you about something that's going on in the neighborhood or they're looking for something or insert reason why they would be there and you have this right here, guess what? Now you're being drawn on and, that might cost you your life. Whereas if you have something like a handgun concealed on person, hey, it's not a threat. I can go ahead and handle this how I need to handle it. Or hey, it is a threat. Let me go ahead and pull this out and use it to defend myself. So it's all about, oh man, Kevin is just screaming up a storm. It's all about your needs, your situation, what it is that you're looking to go for. But if you want just one to serve as a home defense, conceal carry, do everything, I recommend getting yourself some kind of handgun. I also recommend, as a close second, get yourself some kind of rifle to be able to defend yourself more accordingly if you need to have some sort of force multiplier. But if you are, at 0 firearms and you're looking to add a +1, then getting yourself some sort of handgun would definitely be a good +1. Now, I don't recommend that you're using old school milsurp as your defensive piece, but it could absolutely be done. I mean, I don't recommend it. And of course, your laws, your area, your everything. Definitely don't want to use something like this in an apartment complex to protect yourself. But if you're, like I said, in the Midwest, might be a viable option. Not necessarily the greatest of options in comparison to something like a modern AR-10, but it is an option. That poor steel target has been through so much. Let me know what you guys think down below. Like I said, I've talked about this topic before, but I still got questions. So like, subscribe, share, description below. Link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you all in the next episode. I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.